Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to our SDC Industry Night to see you all. My name is Harry. I'm the president of the SDC this year. I've got some committee members here with me. This is from me, Emily, Jack, Alan, Stacey, and Pam down there as well. But thank you for coming up. We have 4 speakers coming. One is a little bit late. We have Emma Fisher on the end, Carlos Patino in the middle, and Jasmine Gibbs on this side. So we will just do a quick acknowledgement of country.
The SCC would just like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. We'd like to recognise and pay our respects to the elders past, present and emerging.
So thank you. So for our agenda tonight, we'll quickly go over it. So we'll start with our introduction quickly, and then we'll get into each of our presenters' presentations. During the presentations, we're going to use a little Slido where you can submit questions. These will be submitted, and then after everyone presents, we're going to pass on questions to the panel. So each question will get asked to everyone. You can ask individual ones, but maybe save those for at the end, because we're going to have some time for conversation and a bit of networking with each of our presenters as well. So before we start, I'll put this up here. So if you want to scan that QR code, if you have a question that pops up, you can put that in, and we'll have it ready once we go to questions. So let me know when everyone's done that.
I just went up and it's
All good. So I think we'll get straight into our presentations. I believe Emma's sitting in the first seat. So lucky. So if we get up Emma's to Carlos.
What sucks? I'm not really as nice as well spoken, but I'll try my best. Work sucks, which doesn't really apply. I think from my history with work, I feel like people sell you, like when you study, like it's this grandiose thing, you're gonna get this stuff in the world, but I think the way doesn't have to suck. Work doesn't have to suck. And I think it's kind of like what you mentioned before, and it's you need to experiment with a bunch of different places to land that one job. And it's taken me maybe 15 years to do this. But could take a year or the first who am I? Carlos Patino. I'm originally from Colombia. I'm a husband and a father of 2. This is one that's so Susana, and this is Bruno Martina. Can't see her there, but she is. I've been involved in music since I was very young, 41 now, so you do that. I'm an illustrator, but I don't do much illustration work for people that I've been watching. That's why I have my job. And I'm a graphic designer. I work for a company called Fonda. This one, and we have a bunch of different entertainment companies, which is something that I never expected to be in. I've always been very focused on music. So this just came. But I studied industrial design. This is my final project for DME, which was music related. And I've been way gone. Because industrial design is very stressful and very mean all the time. And like so many family. But I'm a graphic designer now, so design can take you in many places, from illustration to graphic to animation, photography, but I'll show you. And why does design, why does work on stuff? For me, it's because from anything that I've done, I've managed to gain something from it. And I think, if I didn't gain that, like if it's something that didn't work out, then at least I gave it a shot. And that's how I've always done everything. I think with music has been the same. I've always given it a shot. So I did zines when I was like 14, 16. And it was all music related, but I think music's the one thing that made me kind of think, should try that. This is my career here, my career path. So intense, which is pretty funny because it's baby buggies, and I was doing that when I was 20 something. I lived in Wellington. I studied in Wellington in New Zealand. Studied at Victoria University of Wellington. And I graduated as an industrial designer. Then I worked for this crazy company called JBF, which stands for Just for Funds, which is terrible. I worked there for like 6 months. It was terrible. But I ended up learning a lot about packaging. And I really like packaging. I moved to London for 2 years on the work and holiday visa. Worked for a company called We Do. It was an e-commerce company doing bags and very boring stuff, but there I got kind of like a senior position, so it was really good, and then it was my first managing experience. But I was taking a lot of photos of beds. I had to do beds up, and I had to take photos of matches. So that was kind of suck, but around that time I met Alison Jackson, and Alison Jackson is a something photographer. She takes photos of lookalikes. So she takes photos of the Queen and Prince William. So whatever's happening, trends happening at the moment, then she goes, takes photos of them, sells them to terrible publications. But it was really fun. And I was working a week to 5 days a week, and on the weekend, Alison would call me on Thursday and be like, "I need you Saturday and Sunday," and it was from 8 in the morning to like 2 or 3 in the morning, because we needed to do everything on send it to publication really quick. And then here, most of my experience has been at a agency called JPD, which stands for James Phillips Design, and Fund. James Phillips, I lasted a year. I done a little bit of work for agencies, and I know it's a lot of people want to work in an agency because you get a lot of good clients, but then you also get really small clients, and I didn't love agency work because I like to leave home on the dot, to go home on the dot, and there I couldn't because you're relying essentially on the clients' time, which is pretty cool, but I got to do some cool stuff. I got to work for Coca-Cola, I don't know, Gilead, and a couple other bigger brands, but I got a job at Fun Lab, and it was a cool office, so I was like, I'll give it a shot. Relatives. What relatives taught me was a lot of digital, when digital was kind of like starting, and a lot of print, and I really like print. So that was one of the things that I ended up talking to manufacturers, trying to figure out die cuts, fold lines, stuff like that, which is to me, it's pretty cool. I've always liked print. MDF, even though it's terrible, and it's probably the job that I've hated the most, I ended up actually doing a lot of stuff for, I don't know, things like this, like bigger, like way bigger stuff. Prints. It was very print focused and packaging. A lot of the packaging was really cool because, I got to learn about UV spot, rain, embossing and stuff like that. So that to me, even though I only lasted like 6 months or 8 months or whatever it was, because then I went back to film tenants, I still think I learned way more from these 8 months than what I did probably at meeting. Beds. I had sampled I did everything for this man. So that was really good. But that was my job in London, and from that job, I got to set up my own photography studio, get my own lights, camera, so it was pretty good. There's a lot that I learned there. And because I had my own studio, I could sleep at midday. Downstairs, nobody had the heat support for me. So that was really good. House in Jackson. I was the cameraman for this shoot with, that's when, what's her name? Lady Gaga made a little bit away. This is with Obama. That was my first job with her, and I ended up photoshopping. There's essentially, these models all have angles that they look like they look alike. But if you look at them in real life, they don't look. But it's this angle, this perfect angle. And Allison is perfect for all that stuff. So this is the kind of stuff that was like a weekend, super long weekend job. It was really fun. Because I was doing camera assistant, I was a runner, I was doing Photoshop. So it's really good. So all these kind of like deadly years, whatever it was, that was a training hour. Then in JP, I ended up doing working with bigger companies, but I ended up working with a lot of people that were very talented graphic designers. And I still have friendships from that place. But yeah, for me, it didn't work out as an agency person. So I ended up going in-house again. And I've managed to do cool stuff. This conceptual work is very approved. This stuff that you like the most never gets approved. I ended up working on like bigger sales stuff, and I think it's really good. In my career now is at a different stage, I think, and it's more focused on kind of like the relationship from the company to agency. So certain agencies that might be doing some sort of conceptual work, or a lot of the digital work we outsource to someone else. So on that, from a design point, I'm the person in charge of making sure that everything's within brand guidelines and stuff like that. So it's worked quite well. And this is kind of like the stuff that Flash is big, but at the time it wasn't. At the time it was booming. But this is kind of like the stuff that I kind of put in paper, and like what's kind of stuff that I've actually learned from all these jobs. And it was actually quite interesting because I've never really thought about it from this kind of like slide. So it's really good to put it in perspective. Cool job and cool job. They're both difficult and very challenging, but yeah, I think my career has gone from like a junior designer to a senior to content photography, then down to graphic design, and now I'm the head of design and user interface. But that's going to change soon as well. But yeah, so I think regardless of whatever job you do, then you can always look back and try to say that you gave it a shot. Because the one thing that you're going to learn if you fail at it is that it wasn't the right one for you. And that's from agency work. I think that's what I learned on in-house design. That's it. Well, now questions.
You, Carl, sounds great. So if you have questions, make sure you put them in the Slido and we'll get to them. Get Jasmine to go. Stephen, welcome to Stephen as well. Make sure you get your friend.
Thank you so much. So I graduated in 2020, like right at the end of the pandemic, and I was just talking to Henry about this. I pretty much started my whole design to start online. Like, I didn't know about going, to the office and going for a job in person. I did everything online. So I don't know how it is now, but I'll say if you ask me later what I'm going to talk about. So I'd like to you come with me on the journey, a little bit of that. As I talk about sort of my uni experience, I'll talk about my placement that I did while I was at uni, and my job hunting experience, and some key takeaways that might help you, but something that definitely was eye-opening for me. So currently here I work at NKTG. It's NKTG Sports and Entertainment, which as an enterprise we do marketing for sports and entertainment. And we mainly work in the space of stadiums. So I work within the studio team with about 4 of us, and we create the animations that go around the stadiums, like the MCG. And also the new super screen and big screen that's there. That's very exciting. So some of the examples of work we do, so they're the LEDs around the grounds. So basically just how to connect fans and clubs and brands and make a really great experience for sports clubs. So here, that was last year's look for Renegades, which I helped out with. So basically we do play intros, goal animations for AFL. Yeah, so it's really very fun. And then we also do some really bespoke events. So here I did some animations for the background for Psycho, who played at the BBL. It was such a cool experience with a full takeover moment. So I got to see my animations around the whole stadium of the MCG, which is like amazing. And yeah, and then we also do some stuff for our commercial partners as well, help get their brand out there on broadcast. Yeah, so going back, I graduated in 2021, as I mentioned. So that was after 1 year at Lafro. So in high school, I felt like a little bit pressured to take, in quotes, a real job. So I actually went and did a year in health science. Like, I don't know why. Everyone in my life was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know." So I did a whole year of doing health science, and I got 6 months in, and I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I don't know why I was thinking this is terrible." And then I reassessed. I finished up my year, and I was actually lucky I got a diploma of it. Very cool. Wait, is it? But that's so and then I went to a Swinburne open day, and I talked to some of the students that were doing a copy degree. So they do, or at the same time I did a marketing and motion design degree. It was all up 4 years. And yeah, just basically had to start again. I went back first year and had to relearn everything at uni. Yeah, I think it was about 2021 at the time. So and then I did a 1 year placement at the end of my degree, which was at the Fantastic Bureau, which is our in-house student-led, complete student-led design studio here at Swinburne. So this is probably the pinnacle of my uni experience, is doing this placement, and I 100% endorse it. And be able to do a placement while you're still at uni. So basically they got to work with so a lot of internal clients, so lecturers like Emma. I worked with Emma on a few things, which was really cool. And then also we work with some external clients, but mainly doing sort of social impact, social good work as well. So examples of what I worked on while I was there. So year there, and I learned so much, but I got to do really cool discover design explainer series, so Emma and a couple other lecturers as well. So I actually learned so much about folios and portfolios and everything like that through your website. I had to rewind it and listen and like explain everything, and it was I learned.
She made my really boring little 30 seconds so much more interesting than I just recorded it.
It was really cool. Like I learned so much just watching. And then I had the most amazing opportunity to work on the grad student committee in 2020, which like seems so long ago, but like so it was only a couple of years ago. But, so I got to work on all the motion graphics for the event. So I did a couple of show reels, I even got to work on some 3D stuff. And then the great thing about that was I got to work with all the other students on the committee. And it was just fantastic. Like I learned so much from everyone on that team. And then something that really great that came out of my placements, I actually got to sort of flex these skills that I didn't learn in my degree. So in motion design, you kind of gloss over typography and layouts and hierarchies and stuff, and just you kind of push straight into After Effects. I don't know what it is now, but that's sort of my experience. So I got to do sort of publication design, working with typography. I learned so much about communication design with placement. And then I also got to do some illustration work. So I did, and I was a graphic scribe, which I did before, and probably underwater again. It's quite stressful. And yeah, I'm going to be a graphic scribe for a roundtable discussion about supply chain resilience. It was actually quite interesting. Yeah. So just to recap some of the best things I learned on placement. So I learned so much from collaborating. Like I worked with 3 other designers, 2 from communication design, 1 from UX. And I just picked up so many different tips and tricks that in my own discipline, I wouldn't have been able to know. And they're fantastic people, and I had a great time. I got to develop like really core soft skills. So things just even how to email properly. You don't know how to do that at uni because it's not in the curriculum. But yeah, I got to learn how to conduct myself professionally, how to take meetings, how to set up meetings, how to, just talk to people on the phone and just, because we were a lot of client-facing work. So I had to learn how to actually represent the bureau in the best way I could. And similar to what Emma was saying, industry experience. Experience is amazing. If any change can to get experience, especially on placement is at the bureau. It was amazing because it was so supported. You're with all these other students, but you have someone checking in on you, making sure you're okay. And yeah, and you get to do work on these real life projects, while also having almost like a risk-free environment. So you're not like entirely responsible for some stuff, but yeah, it was such a great thing. Yeah, and the experience was totally valuable. And then the key one down below, and I'll talk about this later, but I know networking is like super scary. I'm quite an introvert, so I found networking the most horrifying thing in the world. And like, go to this networking event. I'm like, maybe but something on placement is kind of came naturally. Like I got to work with all these students, all these lecturers, and I just made these sort of natural connections through conversations. And I was so fortunate enough that some of the students I met went on to get jobs, and they actually linked me up to get freelance work. So I got some jobs through this, and in the end, I got a freelance job from my senior lecturer for a studio in Melbourne called Clear. So I did some freelancing for motion design for them. I was going back to the my final semester. So some of the things I got to sort of beef up my portfolio with is I got to work with some of the animations for advertising for Linux. So whenever they come up with new documentaries, and it's like asteroid hunters and one about extinct animals and ice age and like they're pretty cool. I got to do the animations for the social media. Yeah, that was so much fun. So bright, so colourful, the bold animations. And I also got to do an interview series doing supers and tilers for an interview series for the fabric, which I think is a state that they did. And then I also got to do a logo animation for the water stewardship as well. But yeah, they were great studios to work with. They gave so many opportunities. And yeah, that all came from going someone. In my mind, going to jazz and then the job hunt happened after I graduated. It was stressful. I have to say it was like super stressful. But I did learn a few key things that I think would help want to try and get into the design industry. So I pretty much applied for every job I could possibly apply for. I kind of shocked myself and thought that I was living very rural. And so I had to take jobs that were completely rural. So some things were just not in my, like, yeah, I couldn't, like, expecting me to be in person. So I got used to knockbacks. I did so many interviews. Some went really well. I had some good rapport with the interviewers, but just nothing from them. And yeah, so this is just sort of my experience. What I think around it is that you're on your own journey. Now, I know it's really hard not to compare yourself with others and other people's journeys and where they're going and their pathway. But it's totally different. It's totally different to yours. How they got there is something different way than you do. And it's all going to come in your own. So I felt like I was comparing myself to so many different people. Should do this, I should have done that, should have, there's no should have. It's gonna be in your own time. But for example, I was comparing myself to my partner who got a job in his final semester while still at uni. And I was just like, what? How the hell do you do that? Like that's my thinking, like, that's normal, right? That's totally cool. He's an engineer, totally different industry, totally different land. And then I also knew a designer who after she graduated for a year to get a job in design. So she was working in retail and then she eventually got a design job. And she was the most amazing designer, the friendliest person ever. And her journey looks so different. And it really doesn't, it's just the timing of when the job pops up and the pathways you look at really is so touch and go. But just remember that it's so unique. Your own journey is so unique. So personality. Something that happened to me is I did an interview with Fire Monkeys, so that's a studio in Melbourne for EA. I did an interview with them. I went through art tests and everything. Unfortunately, didn't get the job. But something I did in my portfolio is I put a little illustration I did of cat and king. That was sex daily. And I put it in there, and we're having an interview, and one of the interviewers was like, "Oh, I saw this, illustration you did." And I was like, "Yeah, I did it because I'm obsessed with them." She's like, "I have too." And it was like, thank you. And it just sort of turned it into not like the drilling of questions, and it turned it into a really nice conversation. I had a really good time. And unfortunately, I didn't get a job, but it was like a really good experience. And then it's going on to portfolio skills, interview get jobs. Now, I don't know if this is like 100%, this is just what my experience. A strong portfolio is great. You have to put a lot of work in the portfolio because that's the way you're going to show your best skills. That's going to give you those interviews. Okay? If you're doing something to service, you're not going to put work into your portfolio. Okay? So that would be the interview. But the interview, usually, from what I've heard, from my experience, you get the interview because they know you already can do the job. They know that you've got the skills and that you can do the job. But the interviews where they kind of suss it out. Can you actually do the job? But what kind of person are they? How are they going to mesh with my team? Because the manager is there that's going to be the best fit. They're going to be able to do the job in the best way for their team as well. Yeah, so definitely don't ignore the interview. And I just think that also the more interviews you go to, even though there's knockbacks, that's good experience. That's good things that what sticks, what works for you. Yeah, just keep running. So some key takeaways that you can bring in tomorrow is experience is invaluable. So experience, and I know it literally is gender and folks, I understand. I remember hearing this when I was a design student. They're like, yeah, I get it. But it is really, really helpful. It just, you can be for all this work, and it just gives you so much more confidence to be able to step into the industry. And I had so much trouble thinking how I was going to jump the gap from design student to designer. It's such a massive gap. But experience just starts to close it little by little. And the more experience you can get is, easier it is to jump into the industry. Without networking, but it's really helpful. Don't try and make it a big thing that you have to set yourself up to network. But just have conversations with the students, with peers, with the teachers, and see what can come out of it. It's good to know, really, really good. And then interviews get jobs. Don't forget, interviews are great. In my experience, when I got my job at FTG, I had a conversation with my manager, and she was like, "Yeah, we were talking about my interview, how it went," and she said, "Yeah, we had some other applicants, but then I asked the lead designer, who do you think?" And he said, "Oh, I think I'll get along with her the best." So, and she was right, like we're literally like, we get along so well, and we have so many like common interests. So yeah, just be yourself and see how you measure the team. Yeah, that's how I sort of feel like I got a good step up with my jobs, because I knew the manager who was interviewing me knew that I would mesh really well with her team. Yeah, and thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so thank you, Jasmine. That was great. If you have any questions you want to put up on Studio, does anyone need us to put up the Slido QR code, please? All good. We'll jump into Steve and then send them come up.
Hey everyone, good evening. Thanks for having me today, and especially thank you to Harry who kindly took time out this last weekend to actually invite me to this. So, thank you very much, and thank you all for being here today. I've seen some amazing visuals from people here, from Jazz and sorry,
Carlos.
Carlos.
Yeah.
From Jasmine and Carlos, they have some fantastic visuals, so if I let you down, I apologize. Okay, so before I start, I would just like to do an acknowledgement of the country. As part of IBM, I'm a US designer of IBM, but I'll get into that in a bit, but I'd like to acknowledge the Swinburne and Swinburne languages of these nations as the traditional owners of the land on which we are here today and we are connected by. We recognize the sovereignty and the ongoing connection to the land, their culture, and their community, and we pay respects to their elders, past, present, and future, and great resilience and generosity that they have shown as we strive and continue to strive for greater reconciliation between our custodians, traditional custodians and owners of land. And as this event and projects are doing. So to get started, my name is Stephen. I'm a UX UI designer at IBM, formerly known as International Business Machines, now it's shortened as IBM. I also a former graduate within their graduate program. And I've worked on some really exciting projects around some super duper high tech technologies and incorporating design to connect technology with people and business to deliver really awesome experiences and help businesses connect better with their customers and users as well. Awesome stuff. This is pretty much my bio on a one-page snapshot. If you read through all of this, you'll pretty much know 90% about me. And then if you go on my LinkedIn, you will know 100% about me. So as mentioned, I'm a UX UI designer at IBM. I started at the company in October 2021 as part of their graduate program. And my role and duties is probably a little bit different to some other UX UI designer roles in other companies. We're not really a little studio. We're not really doing a whole bunch of graphics, although that's a very important part of our process. We primarily focus on business design, process improvements, and a whole bunch of service design blueprints and customer journey maps. But we get to work with a lot of amazing clients. We've worked with some of the major telcos in the country, I've worked with a lot of chain technology, and in addition, working with just a whole bunch of government agencies as well. So we do some super exciting and important stuff. I'm also a alum from Swinburne. I graduated from the class of 2019 in the Bachelor of Innovation and Design program, which I think does not exist anymore, but that's okay. It lives on for me, I guess. And while in the program, I just want to just briefly mention the fantastic experience I had as part of the program when it did exist. It was quite an interesting one that blended lots of units and courses from the business side, marketing, as well as some design fundamental stuff as well, which made us really like generalist, well-rounded designers. And we worked with some exciting clients and projects, such as with Australia Post. And one of the really exciting ones is with Mondelez International, which my team and I had the great opportunity and privilege to design a entirely new branded snack for the business from start to end, which was got a few late nights out of that, but it was good. And in addition, just want to touch on the work in integrated learning programs here. So when I was here, I went on the study tour to Samoa and did some human and ethnographic research, which was amazing, and just getting the people there. I volunteered for a space NGO for about 2 years, doing a few different pieces of research and stuff. So I got exposure to some amazing people within that industry around robotics, AI, automation, and how we could apply that into aerospace and for people on the International Space Station, which is pretty cool. It was a nice international effort to be a part of. I'm also a avid investor of various different things, but first of all, I'm an avid investor myself. And I enjoy a lot of the finer things in life, like art and fashion. But I think what I mean by enjoy the finer things in life, I think is more like I love whiskey and I love spirits, liqueurs, and finding really nice bars in Melbourne, which there are many. It's fantastic. Yeah, so that's my side, but I can touch on that that's for another day. For another day. I'm also a co-founder and currently a writer of the Renaissance Weekly newsletter, which Harry knows. It's essentially an online newsletter. I only started in March, but has already started getting some international traction. Humbling, very awesome thing to see. But essentially, on this sort of newsletter, blog thing, I write about personal development, career growth, some bits about my own journey. But I work with a couple of other contributing writers to pretty much write stuff that helps you move ahead in your career, which I heard on a good authority on. And finally, I love talking about exponential tech stuff like blockchain, AI, automation, stuff that can really transform industries. I love talking about disruptive stuff like that. And AI particularly is a huge talking topic today. So yeah, very cool. I also do martial arts. I do Wing Chun. I don't know if anyone here does martial arts, so we can sorry. I don't know. Maybe not today, but yeah. Okay. Now I'd like to get a little bit into what I do at IBM and what IBM does as well, because I think IBM is a very old company, but what we do has changed a lot over the last the first century. But I want to talk about specifically how IBM does design, specifically more design thinking. We use a framework and model called the enterprise design thinking model. And essentially it's just a set of values that we follow to deliver incredible outcomes for businesses and users. It's got 3 key elements with 3 key values and 3 key, focus areas as well. You can learn more. I've hyperlinked it in this pack for the enterprise design if you want to learn more about it. But we did a research initiative with Forrester in 2018 on how enterprise design thinking and methodology transforms the way businesses deliver solutions to their customers and to their users. They found that we're able to deliver 2 times faster to the market. We're a tech-focused company, so a lot of our stuff is on developing applications and solutions. Our architecture and infrastructure for like big banks, government, and stuff like Woolies and Coles, like big companies. But we found that with the traditional sort of waterfall methodology, like to call it, it's a lot of like, oh, we got to plan it perfectly before we do things. Whereas in design thinking, and especially in the agile ways of working, you do things fast, you break things fast, but in a sense, you learn more quickly and you're able to deliver better solutions in short time. So we found the two most fast to market with solutions with 300% return on investment and a 75% increase in team efficiency, which is just incredible. So you should have transformed the way we work. So if you want to learn more about that, it's all popular in the Slack. Well, the particular area of IBM that I work in is called IBM iX. We are a global experience design agency. And we pretty much have, I think at most about 60 different places. Yeah, 60 different studios across the world. We have a studio here in Melbourne. I remember the exact address. But we have one here. We have a big one in Queensland, Brisbane, and we I think a couple in Sydney as well. And I think this is the one in Perth. But yeah, don't quote me on that. But basically what we do, we have a really focused human-centered design approach to the solutions that we generate. So that's always putting the people that we're designing for, the solutions for at the forefront, while taking into consideration the business goals that the business wants to achieve to help pretty much deliver innovations. It's like a 1.5 minute thing. I think it's pretty exciting. It's from our studio in Germany, and it just talks about the kind of projects that we get to work on. Okay, I just want to bring up a quote that our second president of IBM spoke when he was giving a lecture at the University of Pennsylvania in 1973. Good design is good business, and this is a story that we've taken and embedded within our company ever since. To really emphasize the importance of design within a business and how it transforms, like especially a business like ours, where it's like it's a little bit incumbent because of how long we've been around, but having good design actually keeps us fresh and young. And I just want to touch a little bit on the 111 years of history that we have as a company. So this is just a little timeline put together of some of the things that IBM has done. I think one of the most exciting things, and one of the most exciting things that we've done was, okay, IBM was founded in 1911. Going way back, it was just a like scales manufacturing company. It's a huge jump. We made our first desktop computer for consumers in 1981. And that was sort of like, was sort of at the forefront of personal computing at the time as well. And another super exciting one, which I personally really love talking about, is that in 96 and 97, we created Deep Blue. It's our proprietary artificial intelligence at the time that played chess against the world champion chess player Garry Kasparov, and it was all over the news. I remember my parents telling me about it, It was all over the news. No one thought a computer could be a master human chess player, but it did. And it really was a game changer in terms of artificial intelligence and its place in the 21st century, basically. Yeah, the world was really never the same today. There's still, I guess, a misconception nowadays that IBM still sells computers. We used to manufacture all the ThinkPads that we sent to schools and stuff, which was pretty cool. They were like indestructible machines. Nowadays, we don't do that. We sold our computing manufacturing business to Lenovo back in 2005. So nowadays, we're more of a technology consulting company than a technology manufacturing company, although we do still do a lot of research on computing and servers and data centers and that kind of stuff. Really techy stuff. And IBM Lakes was founded in 2013, and this is when we really started to take off as a creative consulting agency and doing a lot of design consulting work. I just want to go over quickly like the last kind of 5 years of my life, just to show a little bit of my journey. So, as mentioned before, I was in the Bachelor's of Innovation and Design program. I did some pretty cool projects, but the two projects that I want to highlight as on the slide is the one I did for Australia Post and Mondelez. Australia Post was a really cool one. We were to design a new end-to-end system and process for customers of Auspost to return their online packages in a more efficient and timely manner. So my team and I went we did a whole bunch of sketches, a whole bunch of journey maps, a whole bunch of service blueprints, just to really nail down okay, how do we make this as convenient and efficient as possible for the customer? We ended up settling on a self-serve kiosk system that automatically creates all the labeling that you need, throughout the entire process, all the different artifacts that you need to get that parcel sent back to the company. This is especially when online shopping was really, really taking off as well. So we were this is core demographic for an target market for this particular solution. And the picture behind it is for Mondelez International. So we designed in this project from end to end a whole new snack product and brand. So I work with a very, very talented team, so I have to really give them all the credit. Primarily, I was the one just presenting the work we're doing back and doing a whole bunch of documentation. But I was involved in the overall process in terms of the ideation as well as the concept refinement. So we did a whole bunch of packaging work because we wanted to create something that was super different, and we wanted to create a snack that would promote healthy eating as well. Essentially, a snack that you could take as a meal substitute, so that you basically it's energy on the go. You just bring it out. The package can be pretty much flattened so that it's easier to throw away and recycle. So we considered stuff like sustainability, health, nutrition, and we actually went ahead and we had a couple of really amazing chefs on the team as well. So I actually cooked it in, I'm sure you guys may recognize it's the Swinburne Innovation. It's on all the precincts. It's an innovation studio, isn't it? Yeah. Really, really cool space to just make something very crazy. And that's pretty much where all the magic happened with this one. And we presented this at Radix in 2019, which was a really, really wild event. I highly recommend everyone to go to Radix. It's just so amazing. It's an amazing experience, at least once you go to Radix. So that was from 2017 to 2019. After I graduated, things were interesting, but even during the time I was in uni, I did volunteering with the international NGO, the space called Australia. It's an interesting community of people. I'd like to call us like just a random band of citizen scientists that wanted to do something crazy. But I got to meet some amazing people there, and even though it's not specifically design related, it really does help to go to work with things with an open mindset, to try different things, experiment. One of my interests is in aerospace, in the aerospace industry and in technology in general. So I've always been a bit of a tech geek at heart. So I wanted to see how I could contribute and do a little bit more of that work in that space. So the one on the left was a proposal that we were doing for like a little NASA project that they were trying to get people like submissions for. It was like a small business innovation research project back in 2018, specifically focused around artificial intelligence and virtual reality and how you can incorporate the two for astronauts on the International Space Station, which is pretty cool. I was part of the ideas generation and technology research phase. And I happened to meet some really, really cool like scientists and engineers on that project as well, among a few other research and stuff that I did during that time. When in 2019 and 2021, I couldn't find a job after I graduated. So I worked in retail. But I had a passion for luxury watches. So specifically the Japanese watch brand Seiko. They've been around since 1881. They're been around for a long time. They make super affordable watches that are super high quality, as well as some kind of expensive ones. But during this time, in addition to my role as a salesperson in the boutique there, I also took it upon myself to take on some extra work that was not highlighted in my contract. Go the extra mile, because that's really what you need these days, honestly. So I did a bunch of training presentations with slideshows about the different watches. I did a whole bunch of brand research stuff so we could become more competitive within the market. To look at the social media stuff that our competitors were doing that we weren't doing in order to get more customers and clients. So I helped them set up the social media for that as well. It was just something really new for them. So then having someone who kind of know a little bit about social media was pretty good, I think. I got us like 0 to 800 followers in the year. Not groundbreaking numbers, but we did get quite a few extra sales from that. And we started selling internationally as well. So we were getting international clients instead of just getting local. Cool. Now, I would love to show everyone the projects I did in IBM and that I'm doing at the moment in IBM. Unfortunately, it's quite confidential at the moment. And I'll give a reason for that. So as mentioned before, we work with some huge clients. The ones that I've worked with, were the biggest ones I've worked with is Telstra, the Meat and Livestock Association of Australia, AusNet, and Austrade in the Australian government. So you might notice a bit of a trend here, big telcos and huge regulatory bodies in government, and a huge energy provider. It's basically the biggest energy provider and monitor in Victoria as well. I did some amazing projects though. I got to work with blockchain technology that we have at IBM and design a user interface solution end-to-end that traces the entire supply chain from for Western lobster with the Western Australia government. So it tracks, where the lobster goes from start to finish when you fish it out until it goes to the customer. That's all highly, it's a little bit classified, but it's a really, really cool project. And it's the same for the other stuff as well. AusNet, we designed a new portal for them to monitor outages, electrical outages in Australia, in Victoria. And in the Livestock Association, that was collaborating with Telstra, again, regarding the supply chain. And then Austrade, we implemented a whole new, like 13 websites for them. So that was a pretty big job. It's probably the most designer rate out of the bunch. But that's just kind of some of the work I do. It's all very sort of process improvement based, and all very kind of maybe a little bit blurry. If you're not into the tech, there's a lot of tech involved. You've got to work with lots of data. And unfortunately, I had to learn how to use Excel when I got this job. But it's a good skill though. Yeah. Okay, I want to start closing things off on my journey as well, just to say, I guess a bit of inspiration and maybe a little time to the guys. I would say when you are aspiring to become a really, really awesome designer or anything that you do or consultant, whatever it may be, always try and reinvent yourself. we try and take on new things, new perspectives, meet new people, become a new you, basically. Your future self will thank you for it. It definitely thanked me. My future self. And pretty much it's just like, don't be content with who you are at the moment. You could always be better, and there's always like a silver lining to every like thing. There's always something better, right? So yeah, don't give up and just keep reinventing yourself, learning new things. Try crazy things as well. Really experiment, be a bit of a mad scientist and just try everything. Like try different industries. If you're interested in, I don't know, if you're interested in fashion, go into fashion, try and do something in fashion. If you're interested in aerospace, do something in the aerospace industry. There's many people out there who can quickly get started and stuff. And we have the internet of course, there's so much you learn. On that note, keep learning. Always keep learning. Be a lifelong learner because you just never know what you're going to come across. That's going to really take you as a person and your career to the next level. And there's always new insights to be discovered. And I think as designers, stay curious and keep learning is the greatest skill that you can have if you master it. And yeah. I get this question a lot from people, so I wanted to touch on it a little bit today. A lot of people ask me whether it's good to be a specialist, a generalist, or a new thing that I've included here, which is a versatilist, which is very rarely used term. I'm going to get the question like, why should I be a specialist? Should I just be a graphic designer? Should I just be one particular design instead of another? You can go really far if you just do one particular design. You can climb really high. You can be like the master of that one niche that you do, which is great. It's a very relevant path to go on. But then you can also be a generalist. I'm more of a generalist. When I finished my course, I was a generalist designer. I could do a whole bunch of different things, but I was never a master at any of them. Recently, I've become more of a versatilist, which is I'm kind of pretty good at a few different things, a few different fields. So I do UX UI design, I do visual design, and I do service design. And recently I'm trying to get a little bit more into the brand design space a little bit. So I'm slowly but surely building up core skills capabilities in my various different design disciplines. There's not really a right or wrong path. I think for me personally, I found that being more of a generalist to start with has worked better for me because it's helped really open a lot of doors for me. But there's nothing wrong with being like a specialist as well. This is just a chart from one of the Gartner reports that I pulled out from the archives. I didn't even know this existed, but it's very cool. So there we go. Verticals, big skills, wide circle goals, broad experience, and recognizing other domains. Generalists and specialists all there as well. So generalists, you're very broad, right? You can kind of do a lot of different things, but you're not like a master in any of them. Specialists, you're really good at one thing, but maybe not in other domains, right? But everyone has their own path. I encourage you to try sort of all the paths and see which one works for you. It's never a one size fits all. One of the, I think it's one of the last things I want to touch on in this presentation today. It's just on digital identity, the power of like side projects and stuff, and leadership that comes from that, right? So digital identity, I really like to boil these things down to like 3 key things. So these 3 key things I think will help, especially if you are looking to get a design job or think almost any job basically. There are 3 things that I think you should keep in mind. It's like what you do, how you do it, and who you do it for. So it's like that what, how, and who. I think it's quite important to know what you do, what you like doing, and what you're good at. Having that self-awareness and how you do it as well. Are you able to deliver like projects end to end? Are you able to complete your slide projects completely? Because that's a great show of like, okay, this person as a hiring manager, like these people, they can commit to something that they want to build, create, envision, whatever it may be, and it's done from start to finish. I think that's very important, especially in IBM, we emphasize being able to finish what you start, basically. So you have a whole bunch of side projects in your portfolio that you finish from start to end, all the way from ideation to concept refinement to, all the user research to then arrive at a refined outcome and solution. That is amazing. So doing side projects is good. It also, having their side projects helps to put up the digital identity. I very much strongly emphasize people to understand the importance of having a social media presence in this day and age. For me, my main platform is LinkedIn. It really helps you reach a lot of employers on there. I've worked with the hiring managers and talent people in IBM. LinkedIn is a piece, like, talent searching tool that they use. So I very highly encourage you to build up your LinkedIn, share your passions on there, and share your side projects on there. It really does wonders. As it did for me, I got my job from LinkedIn, actually. And that's how you become a leader. That's how you become a full leader. It's just sharing your passion, love what you do, and showcasing your unique value that you have as an individual to potential employers as well. I think it's super important, and that positions you as a standout, not just as a standout candidate, but maybe a leader in your particular niche or field as well. There's a quote from the 16th President of the United States, Mr. Abraham Lincoln. He said, "The most reliable way to predict your future is to create it," which I resonate very strongly with. So yeah, I think the choicer, you can, size the stars the limit. They're crazy, try new things, keep learning, and yeah, create your own future. There's no one else will.
So we'll just start passing on your questions to our panel, and then one at a time they have to say a couple of things. So at the top, we have how can students approach studios or agencies for a short-term job during uni breaks? So Carlos, if you have something to say, something.
Internships work. And I think from when I worked at JPD, we had a couple of interns that ended up getting like a full-time job after the internship run out. And you end up meeting people that will, I think internships are probably the most important thing once you're or just getting some work experience, regardless of whatever the my work experience at university was OTS, which was the baby body company. But I ended up working there for like 2 or 3 years. So, and then I quit, and then I ended up approaching them again, and that's how I got the longer job. So I think hit people up.
Used to go to me honest, I got a lot of mine through contacts and stuff. So, but yeah, what I guess cold emailing. I did cold email a couple of studios with interest, just working with some freelancers, so letting them have the opportunity to not commit to a full-time designer. Yeah.
I didn't go for an internship during any of my uni breaks, or even after, actually. My method is, I think, very, very similar to Carlos and Chad as well. Like it's quite a little bit about like who you know and who you can reach out to for new opportunities. For me, I had a little bit of a social media presence back then, so I was putting some like side projects that I was doing just in my spare time, and I was able to get a few people who were like, "Oh, can you help do some social media stuff for me? Can you help do some posts? Can you help redesign this particular piece of graphic on my website to make it a bit more readable or whatever?" So I think for those opportunities just from showcasing my work. But other than that, I would definitely agree with Carlos and Jazz. So if you know anyone, and I'm sure there's someone in your network who will have something that you can help them with.
Being said, I would just add to it that you want to approach them there's going to be a contact form on their website. Then literally contact them by their email, of course. But if you want to kind of not end up in the bin, I actually think it's really good to phone first and sort of not ask for anything up front, but just ask who to email. Like ask for a name of one person and say, look, I'm interested in work experience, or I'm interested in coming in to interview you. I'll make up an excuse, say, I need to interview a designer for a particular article. Write an article for Stephen's Renaissance. Find a reason to ask them that doesn't belong in having, they're not going to have work that you do. It's not possible. So if you ask for that, it's going to be a bit of a dead end. So what you're asking for is an opportunity that's not inconvenient for them, for you to be there. Just be there. That's it. So if you phone up and say, I'm really interested, firstly, look at their website, follow them on all of their social media, know what they do, and say you love their work, which of course you're not going to call them if you don't love their work. You call places you want to work at. And you say, I'm really interested. Could I just come in for a day and watch what you do? Like make it as easy as possible for them. And that way, and then really don't ask that over the phone to say, I'm interested. Can I have a name and person to contact? Email them and say, I'm interested in this. Could you please just let me know if there's a possibility of an opportunity? And so you just try and make it as easy as possible every step. If that doesn't happen, the other things I would suggest is to look for voluntary opportunities. So things like we, I showed in my slide production, that we did a hockey club site density. Lots of local sporting clubs, charities, community groups, they have no money for some of these things. Often help with their social media. Often help with their newsletter. Often you get better creativity kind of opportunities, like they'll be willing to be happy to do whatever it is you want to design. Looks good portfolio. It's a networking opportunity, and it's an easy way to do it. So yeah, that's it.
I would just add quickly, if you see someone with a question towards yours, make sure you like the question so it goes to the top. Delivery was most like questions on the path. Yeah. As a second student, what positions could I look for in a studio company?
Look for those voluntary opportunities.
I would say as a second year student, internships are a good option. That's just me hearing from word of mouth and from a few of my friends who ended up getting internship opportunities, most of them in tech companies. So there's always going to be, especially if it's a big employer, graduate employer, they'll have internship opportunities open. Usually it's accessible to students in their second year as well. So yeah, I would recommend taking a look at a few of those that are putting on.
Well, in your second year, the students was last year.
Depends on which course, but
Yeah, depends on the course. But definitely looking at doing some sort of industry placement like I did. And you work in learning kind of thing. I think there's a career portal, that's sort of where I got my G's placement. Go to the career portal, see what they have there, team work. Very good.
I think, if you can't start building a portfolio, or just start thinking about things. I tried when I was in London, I tried to get a job as a children's illustrator. I've done children's illustration. And I think when I was talking to one of the agents, because I was trying to get some like illustration agents to take care of my work. I ended up having to create a portfolio from scratch because I didn't have enough examples. So I think, and I think it applies the same for design. If the projects that you do in uni, because you can go as conceptual as you can. I don't know where I studied, doing conceptual, higher conceptual. I think it's try to do projects that you're going to be able to use in your portfolio, regardless. Even from second year degree.
Swinburne changes, you should probably know. So is there any plans for overseas students trying to learn English training experience?
I can just mention the unit that we teach, don't teach. I know that it's not actually an option for everyone, but a lot of students who are Swinburne can't apply for industry placement opportunities because of visa restrictions. So that limits what you can do as work experience. But that's part of the reason, one of the slides that I showed was the unit called Accelerator that I teach. And it is one way we do real client projects that are external, but we do them in coursework time. And so if you feel like that, you can speak to Mayan down the front or hire that. We do that task and knows about it. Or you can come and speak to me, email me. But it can be taken as an elective if you wish to, and it's one work experience. If you're an international student, you can't do it on their visa kind of limitations. Otherwise, do voluntary work.
Just out of personal curiosity, is there like a prerequisite for that class?
Yes, there's some prerequisites. You do have to have 175 credit points, so you need to be at least in the middle to late of your second year of study. And you do have to apply for it, so you have to email me at the moment and send me a folio just to check that you've got skills that we can use for the client projects that are on, and send your GPA just to know where you'll study that. But it's open to anyone in the School of Design and Architecture. And yeah, it's newly open to everyone.
So for Emma, would you say in-person cold calling design studios like you did would work today? If not, what do you suggest is the most effective way?
For me, I think it still does work. We ran an industry survey to ask Australian design firms about cold calling, and overwhelmingly they were open to the idea. So don't be scared, phone them up, say you like their work and then make sure that you know it, and say, I'm interested in showing you what I'm going to do or learning more about what you do, and the worst they can say is no. So I think you should try it. But what do you guys think? I mean, experience cold calling places for opportunities work?
I agree with that. Probably because I'm not the expert on the matter. But I do think that because I did use to read sales, it's a bit like a numbers game. For me personally, it's my perspective. I think, try as many people as you can, obviously within your niche or interest. Because you'll never know, who will take you on. I don't know ideas to take me on. I applied for using the easy apply LinkedIn, which I like never worked. There you go. Yeah.
I would just like to say that it seems really scary to be able to approach someone they don't know, but it just and knowing now, like the experience that I work with, they're all really open to the idea of community, especially new graduates. Like, and he's here today. He's been writing to getting new graduates and new ideas, and a lot of companies are like that. So it's really not this massive wall that you have to jump over to get this contact with someone. They're really open to it, and yeah, I know it's a don't be scared, but you shouldn't be. They're people, and they would love to have a conversation with you.
Just before you go, Carlos, I will add, all these people here are literally messaged to, can you come present, and they report their own presentations and everything. They're really nice people. Bad people don't do that. And I think the very first person I sort of networked with was actually Stephen. And a week later, he tagged me on a LinkedIn portfolio help me. And I was like, that's so nice. And I was good at that stage. So they're very nice. So you shouldn't be scared to talk to them. Anyway.
I think the approach is always good. I personally always give people, because we work with people in Vietnam. I think we have over 1,000 staff. I get approached by then staff, and then they want to come in and ghost. They're not sure if they're going to study design or they might be there last year. At the moment, we have, she was part-time and, now she's going full-time companies, well, this one is year. But she's studying design and now she's working with us, so it's just a matter of getting in touch with us. The other thing is, I didn't do this, but I heard this ages ago. A friend of a friend did like a really cool portfolio and she was a graphic designer in Wellington. She ended up doing a tea towel. She sent it to a bunch of studios. And in her mind, it was like, you're gonna use it regardless. So it's gonna live in the kitchen. So she ended up taking that tea towel that she did her portfolio on, and then she ended up doing a really good job. But I think it's that kind of like surprising delight that you need to, that will make you stand on top of, like, yeah, be ahead of the curve.
So next one is, I felt pressured to change fields from design to STEM, but design still has my heart. Can I still get a design job without a degree? That's not me, but like. You want something?
Well, it's process of still starting as well. I like Taylor. But I feel like I think generally, in terms of having experience, I mean, I'm not much to excited you can do that. But uni is really great, you know, developing processes and getting the right idea to jump in. It's really great to support design. Yeah, I mean, if you still have commercial same design.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think like you don't really need, I mean, it depends. For a company like, a big company like IBM or most graduate employees, usually they will require you to have that formal qualification. So I guess it depends on who and what kind of agency or business that you're applying for, that job for. I'd say it's very much possible. The existence of like UX design certifications from like Google and Meta and all those companies exist, even with IBM as well. We have like certifications for that and boot camps and all that kind of stuff. So the game has definitely changed. So I think there's so many possibilities now. There's no reason why I couldn't without a degree, but I would say the degree gives you a level of depth that you cannot have with just pure experience, especially on the more theoretical side. Like if you're going to be a design researcher, having a degree is probably a pretty good addition for that particular role. But yeah, there's always options.
Absolutely no evidence to support my opinion on this. But I believe you can, but the disadvantage that you have is that piece of paper qualification, it's like a shortcut for an employer to understand what you can do. And therefore, big organizations like IBM will use that to quickly cull a huge amount of applicants down to something that's manageable to actually look at. So you're going to miss out on those kinds of opportunities. But overwhelmingly depends on what position you want. If you want to be working in a small design studio, nearly like 3/4 of the design enterprises in Australia are micro businesses. Like they're 1, 2, 3 people. And that number of people, they're possibly more open to looking over, they're not going to look at the qualifications and sort them using a bot. Like they really at IBM, sorry. Yeah. No, big organizations too, they sort of see these with AI. So there, your portfolio is your in. So you have a job to demonstrate, a bigger job to demonstrate what you can do using your portfolio and then learning all those other skills that you would have had otherwise. So it's harder, but it's not, I don't think it's impossible. Did you want to add?
I want to.
Yeah.
I think from having a lot of friends that are in creative, but most of them don't have qualifications. You are able to get in But it is, I do believe that university builds a lot of character when it comes to, like, for example, design. You get to learn a lot of the history, which is very, I personally think it's very important. But it is possible. It depends on how good you are. When I'm hiring people, I get to not be connected to it because I do want to give the option to the people that don't have a qualification. If it goes through HR, they cancel it instantly. If it, but from a personal point, I want to see the portfolio of the person and then judge from the portfolio. I don't really care too much about the CV, but if the person's good, then the person's good. And more with design, because we need to have them.
Next one. Is it better to reach out to students or agencies or job listings as a fresh graduate?
Both.
Yeah,
There's one building, that's fine.
I just like also my experience in applying as a graduate. Definitely look at like sort of niche job listings. So I actually managed to get my job at NKTG through the Node. Promotions on to me, as Node Fest, and then called the Node. So then the listing for junior designer on there, and I applied through that. So and there's heaps of websites out there that are really catering to design. So you can obviously have really good success on LinkedIn. It's really awesome for like jobs, but also in really niche types of design, there are websites out there.
The loop is the one. The loop is great.
It looks good for graduate.
Blue is good.
I have nothing to add to that. I'm going to agree with everyone's points. Try both, try everything.
So it's through university. Do you feel like you're at a disadvantage with someone who has experience outside, like a job?
I can speak from the point of view of when we assess industry applicants, because we employ interns in our office. On a CV, any kind of part-time job, even if it's not design related, tells us that someone has work skills. That means turning up to work on time, being capable of answering the phone, locking up when they're the last one there. All of those basic skills, we look at them. We don't care if you've worked at Macca's or at Coles as a checkout person or anything like that. That is valuable. And that's about work skills. If you've got experience in design, whether it be that sort of voluntary stuff or whatever, it'll come through in your folio as well. But it does show us that you've got an added level of initiative and passion for what you do, that you're willing to kind of do it for nothing a little bit, at least to get your folio together and to get a foot in the door. So that's where I think it's valuable, but it's not impossible to get a job without that if you can't, you don't have time. Did you want to add to that or you know?
Oh, I don't have any.
Yes.
But
Go to the next one.
What are some red flags we should look for in companies?
And you don't want to work with them. So you're saying?
Yeah, I think it's saying like if you're in an interview, for example, and the hiring person actually seems like it might be a dodgy company,
Or like, you know,
dodgy boss.
I think if you go to an interview with a company, brand, agency, whatever it may be, and you're not interviewed by a designer for a design position, that's a red flag to me. They're just getting some HR person to be like, oh, this person could be good at design, but they have no practical experience with design, which makes no sense to me. Yeah, that's probably the key red flag I would look for. Yeah, that's about it for me.
The only red flag I can think of is something that would really conflict with your personal identity. I don't know, if they ask or suggest something that is outside of your beliefs, your personal kind of values, I don't know, I've been to places where I've worked in studios where people just swear all the time. Now, that doesn't bother me. It could bother some people who would feel actually really uncomfortable about it. I work with some people who go to church, some people who don't go to church. If you see stuff that is going to conflict with or your gender identity or anything, that to me is a red flag, and that would be something that makes me go, I don't want to be here. Like, it doesn't matter if they don't like me for that stuff, but I can't feel comfortable here and I would work here. That's the only thing I can think of as a massive red flag that would instantly cancel something.
And speaking from experience, I had a couple of interviews where I just, I'm just like, I felt like they were kind of just trying to get to me, trying to get back to you. It doesn't feel good. If you don't feel good during an interview, it's a red flag. Like, can you imagine what it'd be like to work in the job? You know? So I think, yeah, same with like personal belief. Just something doesn't feel right, if you don't feel comfortable. Red flag.
Personally, my wife always criticized me about styles eventually as I am now. Because heavily executive thing. If the person has a problem with the tenants, then I know that's a red flag for me. So because it's gonna be a red flag the whole time that I'm there. So I try to go to interviews how I am. And it's actually got me jobs because people think I'm highly creative. But it's also kind of like closed some doors for, I think it went for a job once, if I'm paying or something. So that got shut down recently, but I think, yeah, it's the vibe, I think that you get from the place as well.
Thank you. I think we'll stop the questions to the panel there. It's about 5 minutes to 8 or so. So we'll leave just a bit of time for networking and conversation. If you can go back to